Hey everybody, my name is NGS, and over the weekend I got a chance to check out the latest Disney movie titled Zootopia. Now I'm a dude who, like most, grew up on a lot of classic Disney movies. I was born in what people have dubbed the Disney Renaissance era, so of course I grew up watching films like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and the Lion King. The Lion King being my number one favorite Disney movie. Now, while the Disney Renaissance era was a really interesting point in traditional animation, there was a lot of cool things that were going on then. For me, it holds a very different place in my heart. It actually has kind of a negative connotation attached to it, if you can believe that. I think that the Disney Renaissance era was the last time that we saw a great string of animated films from Disney. Now, of course, I know a lot of people are going to take that comment out of context and label me a nostalgia tard who is so fascinated with the 90s and doesn't want to move on. No, that is not the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to illustrate when it comes to the Disney Renaissance period is that looking at the movies that they released there, in some way, shape, or form, they all managed to one-up another. Unfortunately, you cannot say the same thing about the early to mid 2000s for Disney animated movies. I mean, heck, my favorite animated movie from Disney in the early 2000s was Treasure Planet. While I think that is an incredible work of art, a lot of people do not hold the same opinion. In fact, it was one of Disney's biggest box office disasters, if you can believe it or not. But you know what? That's okay. All us Treasure Planet fans, we are dedicated as all heck. We watch that shit on Netflix all the time, even though we got the Blu-ray in our collection right there. Treasure Planet fans, comment down below where y'all at. I want to see y'all. We still actively trying to get it into the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Mark my words. If Frozen ends up in Kingdom Hearts, you damn well know Treasure Planet better be there too. But that is another video for another day. While we had to move on from the Disney Renaissance era, we entered into what is one of the most rocky times for Disney animation. There weren't really a lot of good films coming out from the 2000s era. I mean, of course, you had a couple of decent ones here and there, and we're not talking about the beast known as Pixar. That is a different entity entirely. Something interesting did happen with the release of a little film called Tangled. In 2010, what a lot of people are coining now as Disney Renaissance 2.0, we started to see Disney care a lot more about animation, and not just animation, a lot of good animation. With the release of Tangled in 2010, followed by Wreck-It Ralph, the worldwide phenomenon known as Frozen, and Big Hero 6, we saw a lot of great movies. And now we got Zootopia added to that bunch. So, 3 minutes into the video, is Zootopia a good movie, Neo? Is it worth checking out? To answer that question, I will say yes. Zootopia is not only a worthy addition to the Disney Renaissance revival, but it is the best movie from Disney in the past 16 years. And I know those are some pretty bold words, especially if you're talking about animated movies from Disney. I mean, how are you going to compete against the phenomenon that is Frozen, man? Oh my God. But I will answer those questions here and now. So what is Zootopia, for those who are wondering? To be honest, I didn't know much until I saw the movie. The most that I'd seen of this film was the viral marketing campaign that they put out during the Oscars, where they had a lot of parodies of characters and posters, and they were, parodying all the best pictures, really funny stuff like that. But I hadn't seen a single trailer for the movie. I hadn't seen any of my friends talking about it. So I went into this movie, I don't do a lot of the times. I went into this movie blind, with no expectations whatsoever. I plopped down my money for the ticket, saw it on opening night, and I gotta say that was one of the best decisions of my life. Zootopia is definitely one for the history books. So the story of Zootopia is fairly simple. Without getting into spoilers, Judy Hopps, who's the main character, which you guys can see right there, the little bunny rabbit, her goal from her really young days is to become a police officer. She wants to do her best protecting the fine citizens of the world. It's a really noble goal, right? But something in this movie really kind of, prohibits her from achieving her goal. And that is the fact that she is a bunny rabbit. This is one of the things that I really did love about Zootopia, is that it does a great job at immersing you in a movie that, looking at it on paper, you don't think you'd be too immersed in. As I'm sure you guys can tell, these are animals, right? It's another animated feature featuring animals. So you're asking yourself, how in the world am I going to get attached to animals? How am I going to, feel for them in their struggles and their situations? And that's what the movie does a really good job at. It actually does a great job at making you believe that these people are actually living beings. And one of the main things that really helps tell Judy's story is that all of the animals are to scale. And by that, I mean Judy Hopps is a bunny rabbit. And she's about the size of a bunny rabbit. So when she's going up in her department against people who are like giraffe size, who are bulls, who are orangutans, who are jaguars, those characters, everything is to scale. So you can see how this would be a really big obstacle for Judy to overcome. And that was something I really enjoyed seeing, because a lot of the times in animated films, you see animals that are not drawn to scale. They're all drawn to be the same size for whatever reason, because most people don't care. But the fact that everybody was to scale really did help tell the story. Another thing that really did help tell this story and make you actually believe that this is happening is that it is, for the most part, if they weren't animals, this could be a movie starring human beings. By that I mean these characters are using smartphones. Judy Hopps uses an iPhone, she uses an iPod, she listens to music while she's walking around. The characters in the movie use apps that we as human beings would use, those really silly apps where you can post your head on other people's bodies and you can make it move and say certain things. These animals are just so hip and up to date with all the things that are happening there, which you don't see too often in these kind of movies. You normally see these people kind of stray away from it. But, the fact that you see things like this and Judy Hopps FaceTiming her parents, it's the really little things that immerse you in the movie even more. But what makes this movie really great, because it can't just be the fact that you have these animals using smartphones, right? Like, who cares about that? Okay, cool. It's a nice addition. What really makes this movie great is that it tackles a really, really, really sensitive subject matter, and that is the notion that you are limited in life by what you're born into. So X, Y, and Z, your facial features, your skin tone, yada, 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 all those things, you are never going to amount to anything else because you are said thing. That is a very, very, very important social issue that we face nowadays. And that was something I didn't expect them to talk about going in. Like I said, I hadn't seen any trailers about the movie whatsoever. So when I saw them, hinting towards that in the movie, I got kind of worried about this because, as I'm sure you guys can tell, I'm a dude who watches a lot of animated features, a lot of anime, a lot of cartoons, read a lot of comics, and when they're talking about really sensitive issues like this, more often than not, they tend to go over the top. They tend to be rather preachy, one-sided, dare I say SJW. So I was really worried that they were going to do this sort of thing, but fortunately they do not. They present this situation in probably one of the most tasteful ways. I think the best ways that you can tell this story without it being over the top, without it being preachy, without it being one-sided. Judy Hopps is a character that, even though she's met with all of these social limitations and struggles, she doesn't whine about it. She doesn't complain about it. She wants to do her very, very best. And while it shows her side of the story, it also shows the opposite side of it, where you're seeing that maybe she should settle. Maybe she should just, live with her parents and do things that only she can do. But no, she wants to achieve greatness. And the way they handled all of those things in the movie was phenomenal. It was great. It was done in a way that doesn't beat you over the head, that makes you look like you're the wrong guy. Like, you guys, if you watch things nowadays, you understand what I'm talking about, right? It's done in one of the best ways humanly possible, and it really lends itself by having a great cast of characters that are all different, that are all unique, that are all vast, that are all phenomenally voice acted, by the way. You're going to see a lot of great actors here, from Idris Elba to the fantastic J.K. Simmons, Jason Bateman, a lot of good stuff in this movie. And it helps itself by incorporating a lot of drama in the movie. Again, something I didn't expect going into it. This movie has a lot of drama in it. In the first 5 minutes of the movie, something deep happens that you're just like, they really putting that in this kind of movie? Because let's be honest, a lot of the animated Disney movies, not just animated Disney movies, but animated movies in the past couple of years, they've kind of been toning down their real world issues approach in favor of, oh, fart jokes and memes and humor and, you know, the Minions movie. That's exactly what I'm talking about. In favor of doing those things because they're safe. But in this movie, it treats you with respect. That is the theme of Zootopia. It's a movie that treats you with respect, regardless of whether you're a kid or you're a 22-year-old adult like I am, or you're a parent who's begrudgingly dragged to this movie. You're treated with respect. There's no stupid fart jokes. There's no toilet humor. There's none of that stuff. There are a lot of jokes in this movie that are very funny, and in some cases are probably going to go over the heads of a lot of kids. A good example of it was the Arthur animated TV series from way back when. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That TV series had a lot of jokes in there that by today's standards would be considered pretty freaking savage, to say the least. And for y'all who've seen the series, you know what I'm talking about. And Zootopia is just another one of those things. The way it handles drama, the way it handles humor is phenomenally done, and it doesn't need to rely on the classic stereotypes and tropes of animated features. And by that, I mean breaking out into song to talk about our problems of letting it go and that being, you know, a synonym for blah, blah, blah. Those type of things this movie doesn't need to. Why? Because it has strong characters, it has a great story, and it has a theme that it tackles so very well. And that's where I stand right now with Zootopia. It is definitely one for the history books for a lot of reasons. It's one of the smartest animated films that I've ever seen, especially coming from the recent string of Disney stuff, because I'll be honest, I really enjoyed Tangled, I enjoyed Frozen, I enjoyed Wreck-It Ralph, and of course Big Hero 6, but none of those movies really, to me, were as great as a lot of people were talking about it. I think a lot of people were overhyping it because of the fact that, oh, we haven't seen a great animated Disney film in a while. Right? So of course people are going to be like, oh my god, let me sing the praises about it. Not saying those are bad movies, mind you, but I never saw the hype for them. However, Zootopia is definitely one that I can stand beside and I can back because it is definitely worth the hype. You don't need all of these tropes and things to prove that this movie is going to be a success. And even though the story may sound kind of by the book on paper, you'll be watching this movie and you're like, okay, I know where they're going with this. They're going to do this and that. The movie kind of plays around with that notion. You think it's going to go a certain way, but then it does something and you're like, oh, okay, so they go through this. And they're like, no, we're just going to go like that. So it does a great job of telling a story that you've already seen before, but in a fresh take that I think a lot of people are going to get really good enjoyment out of. So go see Zootopia. It is definitely worth the hype, as a lot of people say, and I wouldn't be surprised that this ends up in a top 5 list of best movies of 2016, especially for me. There's a lot of things that I loved in this movie. It was phenomenally voice acted. It has a really great theme, and I definitely got to tip my hats off to the people who are making this movie because they treated us with respect, which is definitely something you can't say about a lot of people who have a lot of stuff going into this movie. So yeah, go see Zootopia. Gets my shining seal of approval, or whatever people say in these ends of these review. And from me to you for now, I'm NGS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.